This is the first impeachment where there's no crime. I say, tell me what I did, please. Well, we don't know. You violated the Constitution. You had Turley, who's smart, Alan Dershowitz, these guys, all of them. They say there's no crime. There's no crime, right? There's no crime. I'm the first person to ever get impeached, and there's no crime. I feel guilty. You know what they call it? Impeachment light. It's impeachment light.
Impeachment light. Welcome back to Newsmax Now. I'm John Bachman. That was President Trump last night during his Merry Christmas rally in Battle Creek, Michigan. And joining us now is one of those smart guys President Trump talked about, Newsmax TV contributor and Harvard Law professor emeritus Alan Dershowitz. Professor Dershowitz is also the author of the great new book, Guilt by Accusation. Professor Dershowitz, great to see you. It'd have to be a thrill to hear your name mentioned from the podium last night. I know you were at the White House recently for the Hanukkah party there, too, but you're becoming a regular.
No, I'm not a supporter of President Trump. I voted against him. I voted for Hillary Clinton. I'm a supporter of the Constitution. If Hillary Clinton were president and she were being impeached, I'd be making exactly the same arguments. I made the same arguments for Bill Clinton. I made the same arguments for Richard Nixon back in the 1970s when I was on the National Board of the American Civil Liberties Union. So I have been consistent. I passed the shoe on the other foot test. On the other hand, some of my academic and political friends do not pass that test. They impeach based on criteria only against their political enemies, which they would never apply to their political friends.
Yeah, you know, a lot of people forget, even as light as this impeachment is, out of the 3 impeachment we've had, none of them have been successful, really. I mean, Richard Nixon, he resigned, of course, before anything really happened with the Senate trial or even the full House vote. But let's talk about this article you have up on Newsmax.com right now that says Nancy Pelosi's proposal to withhold the Senate trial is unconstitutional. Now, I thought this was a prerogative of the House Speaker with basically anything that passes from the House. But tell us why you think it's unconstitutional.
The framers of the Constitution intended the impeachment and removal process to be one, to be part of a single process. The House impeaches, the Senate tries and decides whether to remove or not. You can't break it up. You can't say we're going to just impeach and not give the president the opportunity to present his case and to be vindicated and acquitted by the Senate. The framers of the Constitution would be rolling over in their grave if they saw how some Democrats, Nancy Pelosi, with an idea stimulated by my friend and former colleague Larry Tribe, coming up with this basically harebrained idea. Let's impeach, but let's not try. So we'll have the impeachment hang over him for the rest of his life, but he'll have no opportunity to prove his innocence. It would be as if a prosecutor said, look, I can never win this case at trial. I have no evidence. But I can get a grand jury to indict. So I'll indict somebody. I'll let the indictment hang over his head for the rest of his life. But he's not coming to trial. I'm giving him no opportunity to be tried and acquitted. That would violate the speedy trial provision of the Constitution. And this violates the core of what impeachment and removal is all about.
I'm drawing a blank. I want to say it's Hamilton. I don't think it's Hamilton. But one of our founders did talk about the importance of the trial process so the president could be exonerated should he be accused of any of these high crimes and misdemeanors, right?
Yeah, and it was Hamilton.
Hamilton, okay.
In Federalist 65, and talked about how important it was to have the trial in the Senate. He didn't want the trial in the Supreme Court because the president can be tried after he's removed for the crime for which he was impeached. And as Hamilton said, you don't want the same institution, the judiciary, to be trying somebody twice for the same crime, which also suggests you need a crime for impeachment. So he said, we'll put it to the Senate. Let them be the triers, but Hamilton would be appalled at this notion that you can impeach and not bring it to the Senate. First of all, Nancy Pelosi has no power to keep it from the Senate. The leaders of the Senate have the right to just say, we're scheduling the trial, January 3rd, Chief Justice, you're invited to preside. The trial begins. You want to send us your articles of impeachment? Fine, we can read the newspapers. We know what the impeachment articles are. We're putting him on trial for those impeachment articles, and we're going to acquit him if the evidence doesn't support it, or if these articles don't satisfy the constitutional criteria, which they do not.
They don't.
So I think she is placing herself above the law, Nancy Pelosi, and Larry Tribe is urging her to place Congress and the House of Representatives above the law. The president's not above the law, but neither is Nancy Pelosi.
Well, these aren't actual crimes. You can't find them in the, any statute book. So, I wonder if Nancy Pelosi was actually serious, if this was, some sort of, plan to make this doomed to fail to begin with. It seems a little light. With the couple minutes we have left, I want to also ask you about Jeffrey Epstein, because we just learned the prosecutors revealed yesterday that surveillance footage from outside of Epstein's cell has gone missing now, specifically footage from the time of his first suicide attempt. Right. Assistant U.S. Attorney Jason Sweargold admitted nobody at the Metropolitan Correction Center in Manhattan can find the footage. Of course, Professor, you've been on our show several times to talk about this case. You knew Jeffrey Epstein. You've been accused of rape by an accuser. You called it a shakedown plot. You've written about this in your book, Guilt by Accusation. But, there is this conspiracy theory around Epstein, and now there's more security footage missing. I'm a big fan of the Occam's razor theory. The simplest explanation is usually the best one. But even I are having a hard time sometimes with some of these coincidences, Professor Dershowitz.
No, it's remarkable. First of all, as to the accusation against me, her own lawyer on tape said she's wrong, simply wrong. It was impossible for me to have been with her. She herself admitted in emails and in her manuscript she never met me, she never heard of me, she never saw me. Totally made up, completely made up charge. But as to the conspiracy theory, look, there has to be an investigation. Yeah. It is shocking that the video of the first suicide attempt would be missing, because the first suicide attempt is crucial. How did they allow him to commit suicide a second time after he failed a first time? But, I've been in that prison many times, and it's very hard to imagine anybody being able to get to him unless it was a completely inside job. I think Jeffrey Epstein was somebody who was a hedonist. He couldn't imagine life without his pleasures and spending the rest of his time in a federal prison. So my own theory is Occam's razor suggests he probably took his own life, but I think there ought to be a full and thorough investigation.
And I agree 100%. It's great to see you as always, Professor Dershowitz. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
All right. North Carolina Congressman Mark Meadows announced this morning that he will not seek re-election after serving 8 years in the House. Meadows is now the 25th House Republican to retire. So what is next for Meadows? Well, if the D.C. rumor mill carries any weight, Meadows might be headed to the White House as President Trump's next chief of staff. Here's Newsmax TV's White House correspondent John Gizzi with more.
The North Carolina builder and developer is a close friend of President Trump's and one of his fiercest defenders on the floor of the House of Representatives. When White House Chief of Staff John Kelly quit 11 months ago, Congressman Meadows made it clear he wanted the job. And now he is making himself available, particularly at a time that sources in the White House tell this reporter the president is less than overjoyed with the performance of his current chief of staff, Mick Mulvaney. It's an old Washington game. Someone surrenders one job, and immediately speculation mounts that he'll take another. In this case, it would make him the president's fourth chief of staff in 4 years. For Newsmax TV in Washington, D.C., I'm John Gizzi.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for breaking news and give us a thumbs up. If you like this video, then share it with your friends. Remember, you can watch Newsmax TV live on YouTube. Newsmax TV, real news for real people.